Hello. So we are going to be making a monochromatic scale today with acrylic paint. They look something like this. Basically, you're going to have a hue in the middle, so you're going to pick a color to work with, and then you're going to have shades on one side and tints on the other side. This is in preparation for your monochromatic painting project you're going to start. You really have to practice and know how to mix tints and shades before starting this project, okay? So some of the materials you're going to need is this strip of canvas paper. It's actually not drawing paper or watercolor paper. It's canvas paper specially made for painting on. A painting palette, a Sharpie, can be thick or thin. I think a pencil, maybe. A ruler? Nah, you don't need a ruler. Don't need the ruler. So these things, some water for cleaning your brushes. I would have a few different paint brushes on hand. I always like using these flat ones that look like they've been pinched here. And you're going to need some white paint, some black paint, and one color of your choice, okay? I actually need to go get more of that color. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do before starting is write name and period on the back of this in Sharpie. This is really important that we do this because Miss Piano and I want to hand your work back to you, and we don't know whose it is if you don't write your name and period on it. So it helps us stay more organized and get your work back to you. Also, when you're working on projects, it's really important to know whose is whose. So please write your name. I'm going to pretend my name is Jimmy, and I am in period 2. So your name and the period for class, okay? So that's going to be the back. Now, before we get started, 3 words you guys need to know for this is hue. Hue is the original color. So the color that comes straight from the paint bottle is the hue, okay? That's the one that's going to be in the middle. Tint is when you add white, different amounts of white, to get lighter versions of that hue that you're starting with, okay? So adding a little bit of white gets you something like this, and then the more white that you add, the lighter it gets. On the opposite side of the spectrum, we have shades. You get shades by adding varying amounts of black. It's not showing up so great in the camera, but these are 2 different shades. You can tell the difference in person, but they look very similar on the camera. So that's what we're going to be doing today in preparation for your monochromatic painting project. Even the word monochromatic. Let's talk about that for 1 second. Monochromatic, okay? It's actually one word without this hyphen in the middle. But I split it up because I want you guys to realize that mono means one and chroma means color. So it literally means one color, okay? So that's what monochromatic is. So here's your color. You're going to grab your, I'm trying to decide, let's actually make with your pencil. I want you guys to first make some sections. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sections. So you're not going to draw a line down the middle because we need our hue to be in the middle. So you can use a ruler for this if you want, but I think that's just kind of a waste of time. You can even write on the top here, hue. So just somewhere in the middle, that's about 1 inch. Is your hue, and then on each side you want 4 sections, so you can just honestly eyeball it. They don't have to be perfect. Please don't sit there and try to get them to be perfect. 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? So I'm going to label this side as shades and this side as tints, okay? So our hue is going to go in the middle, shades where you add black, tints where you add white. So once you have that done, also Miss Piano, you can pause the video if students need a little more time to do this. Alright, so we are going to take a clean brush, and we're going to take the color that's our hue, and we are going to take some out onto our paint palette. About that amount is good to start. You can always go back for more. And we're actually going to separate it because we want to have some of this paint to use for making tints and one for shades, and you don't want to cross mix them. So first, the easiest one that we have to do is hue. So I am just going to take some of that pure blue color that I have, it's a really nice blue, and paint it right there in the middle. Okay, don't worry about your painting skills, that's not the point of this exercise. So there's my hue. Now we're going to work with tints. So instead of dipping into this white paint with my blue paintbrush, which obviously would not make a lot of sense because it ruins the white paint for everyone else, I have a second brush on the side here just for going into the white paint. So I'm going to scoop some of that out into a section over here, maybe take a little extra, and now I'm going to start mixing some tints. So I'm going to take some blue, put it over here, and I'm going to start by grabbing a little bit of white, okay? I can always go back and get more, and it looks like I think I will need a little bit more. So this is going to be my first tint. I don't want it to be my lightest tint, okay? It just needs to be a little lighter than my hue color. Make sure it's really mixed in well, and then when you have a nice tint that's not too light, you can do it in here. If you accidentally went too light, you can scoop some more of the original hue, the original color paint that you have. Alright, so next I'm going to go in and grab some more white to make a tint that's a little lighter than the one we just made. So I'm going to mix that in, mix, mix, mix. Alright, time to paint that down. You might go to paint it on the canvas paper and realize that it needs to be lighter, and so it's okay to go back in, add more white, and paint on top of something you already put down. That's the beautiful thing about paint, is you can always go on top of it. Alright, now I'm going to add some more white. I had like a bigger scoop this time, mixing it in. I've got a nice baby blue forming, and get some on my brush and paint it. And I'm purposely not covering my word that says tints. Okay, so the thing that I do to get my lightest is, instead of adding the rest of my white into there, I just mix the white that I have left, because there's already blue on my brush. So that's just, to me, that's just the easiest thing that I do, okay? So I just mix my brush into the white paint. And there you go. There's my final tint. Okay, so you can see how it progressively gets lighter. Now we're ready to do shades, but before we do that, we need to clean off our brush completely. So I usually wipe it on paper or paper towel first, and then I'm going to rinse it off in my water here. And make sure to dry it on paper towel before using it, because this is not watercolor and you don't want your paintbrush to be really wet. So if you don't have paper towel with you, go grab some. And Miss Piano, if you need to pause right here to allow the students to be ready, you can do that. But now I'm going to start making shades. So we can use the same palette here. You're going to glob some black onto your palette, okay? And if you have black in these little containers, then again, you're grabbing a different clean paintbrush, scooping it in with that clean paintbrush, and then you can put that paintbrush off to the side. Okay, so the difference between black and white paint here is you only need a tiny little bit of the black paint to make it darker, okay? So I'm going to take some blue, put it over here, and I'm going to take the tiniest little bit of black on my paintbrush and mix it in. And it's already going to make it dark. And remember, our first shade, we don't want it to be super dark. We'll get there eventually. We just want it to be one step darker than the original. I think I need a little more black paint. Gonna mix that in. Maybe I went too dark. That's okay. Okay. So mix, mix, mix. And paint it right to the left of my hue. There it is. Okay. Now I'm going to add some more black mix it into that same section on my palette until I get a shade that is noticeably different, noticeably darker. Okay, add some more black, mix it in. Don't be a perfectionist with this, guys, okay? I've seen my students try to just paint perfectly and mix the perfect colors. This is more a fast exercise to get some practice in. And lastly, I'm going to add a good amount of black because I want my last and fourth shade to be really, really dark. And there it is. It almost looks like black. It probably looks black on the camera, but I can see in person that it is a little bit tinted blue. Okay, so sorry that the video's 10 minutes long, 11 minutes long, but I really wanted you guys to get some practice in doing your monochromatic strip here. Okay, so the next step is choosing, your photo that you want to paint monochromatic for your painting, and choosing a color that you want to work with for your monochromatic painting. All right, bye.